Yeah, now being recorded. Hare Krishna. So let's offer some prayers as we always do to Srila Prabhupada, who kindly has given us Bhagavad Gita, but more specifically, he's given us Bhagavad Gita as it is, you know. There's many editions of Bhagavad Gita out there, many commentaries by many philosophers who have different philosophies. That's why Prabhupada gave that specific title, indicating that it's the actual message as Krishna meant Arjuna to hear, which is very relevant for us. Okay, so Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shemati Bhakti Vedanta Swam Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sunya Ashtatara Satanine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna. So welcome again, everyone. Hare Krishna. Um,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So let's have some volunteers read.
That's the 18 one, isn't it?
Yeah,
518.
yeah,
Oh, I know this verse.
yeah. We read it, but we didn't read the purple.
But I'm going to read the whole of it.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Vidya vina sampane brahmane kavihastine sunichaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshina. Translation. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. Purport. A Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species or caste. The brahmana and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, an elephant may be different from the point of view of species, but these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion as Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of Supreme is real knowledge. As far as the bodies are concerned, in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone because he treats every living being as a friend, yet maintains himself as Paramatma, regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. The Lord as Paramatma is present both in the outcast and in the Brahmana. Although the body of the Brahmana and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material production of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the supersoul within the body are the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the supersoul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. For the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. The similar characteristics of the soul and the supersoul are that they are both conscious, eternal, and blissful. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the supersoul is conscious of all bodies. The supersoul is present in all bodies without distinction.
Okay, thank you. So any questions here? Any comments? Vidyavana Sampane. This is a verse. We have an exam that devotees take, those who study Bhagavad Gita. It's called Bhakta Sastri. And there's a certain verses which is one is required to learn to pass that exam, and this is one of them. Vidyavana Sampane. Brahmani Gavi Hashtani Shuni Cheva Supakecha Pandita Samadashana. Yes. So I'll ask a question here. So does this mean that Arjuna should see equally Yudhisthira and Duryodhan. Arjuna might be confused. Is Krishna asking me are they the same? There's a big difference between the two. Yudhisthira and Duryodhan. What's being asked by Krishna here?
Yeah, maybe I'll have a go at answering it.
Please, have a go, as they say.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. So Krishna is here. You see them as a individual part and parcel spark of Krishna, a soul. So you're seeing them as equal because they're all got the outer body is different, the mentalities may be different, but the soul is the same. So you see them as a soul, but obviously your relationship with that soul is through you interact with them like according to the body that they're in. Like you wouldn't go to an elephant and start saying, well, you should be living by Varnashram rules or anything like that, because he doesn't have a human body.
Yeah, I shouldn't embrace a tiger, Prabhupada would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. Another question I would ask, but you've answered it, is that so that means who should he fight for? On what side should he fight if everyone's considered equal? And so I was reading a nice little commentary on this by Chaitanya Charan. And he says, he says, I'll just read from here. When we see everyone spiritually equal, we no longer label people based solely on externals. So this verse actually speaks about having equality of vision, especially this day and age, even more so. Often it's something which is protests about, having discrimination is a big word today, where persons may be discriminated against because of their color, because of background, because of their sex, because of their what, etc., etc. So this verse is really speaking about having equality of vision. But he mentions here, this comment here mentions, when we see everyone is spiritually equal, we no longer label people based solely on externals. I think I mentioned last week, isn't it, at the end of the class, that we may unintended, or we may, what's the word? I think we may unintentionally, what's the word I'm looking for? No, we may unconsciously, excuse me. We may even unconsciously make discrimination. Yeah, even unconsciously. I think I gave the example, for instance, of what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. If we're on Russia's side, if we see anyone who comes from Ukraine, we're going to have some discrimination and vice versa. Yeah. So, but with this spiritual vision, one will no longer label people based solely on externals, such as nationality, ethnicity, race, or religion. Yeah. That's also another big wrong, where someone of a particular religious practice will spontaneously be discriminated against those of another spiritual practice. Yeah? It's something that gets quite heated as well. Even with, there's this cartoon which one devotee shared with me. I'll just go over the basics of it. There's this man, he was threatening to commit suicide on the bridge. And this lady, this well-wishing lady, saw what he was doing and said, "Stop, stop, stop! Don't do it." And she said something to do with God, and he said, "Oh, are you a Christian?" And he said, "Yes, I'm a Christian." So there's both Christians, and then he said, "Are you a member of this particular Christian church?" And she said, "Yes," and she was in those both, very happy. And then he went further. "Oh, are you a part of the Protestant Reformation of 1876?" And she said, "Yes, yes, I'm part of the Protestant Church of the Reformation of 1866." And then he said, "Are you part of the new founded Protestant movement of I say I'm just getting of 1927?" And she said, "No, no." And then he said no. So then her face changed, and she pushed him off the bridge.
Oh.
Said, "Die," because she wasn't part of the same. Anyway, you have to perhaps see the cartoon to really appreciate it fully. I didn't explain it as good as it was portrayed. I think get the point. Yeah, so especially in race or religion, still. So the point I want to try and make here, I'm getting to. Still, when we learn to see something more than what the eyes show, okay, when we learn to see something more than the eyes show, in another commentary, it was used seeing with the eye of wisdom. Yeah, seeing the spiritual substratum that's pervading all existence. So specifically seeing Krishna as the Paramatma situated in everyone's heart. That doesn't mean that we stop seeing what our eyes show. But that I'll say again, when we learn to see something more than what our eyes show through wisdom, it doesn't mean that we stop seeing what our eyes. Let me read it. It doesn't. When we learn to see something more than what our eyes show, doesn't mean we should stop seeing what our eyes show. Yeah, that makes sense. So Mahaprabhu was pointing that out. So we have to. So there will be, because here in this here there was quite some contrasts and examples given specifically to put this point across. Here we have a Brahman, and then it gets down to a outcast. So there's quite a contrast. Got a brahmana, and then someone who's an outcast, someone who's a dog eater. Yeah. And then you have a cow, which is considered very sacred. Also elephant to some degree, but then you have an elephant. So they're very distinct, different bodies according to karma. Yeah. And so, yeah, so that people have real and consequential differences at physical, behavioral, emotional, and ethical levels. All right. I'll read a bit. If it did, does equality of vision imply equality of action? And Mother Lavanga has already pointed that out. Yeah. If it did, that would make Arjuna's social role as a Kshatriya redundant. If both the attacker and the attacked are to be treated equally, then why punish the attacker and protect the attacked? Actually, failing to differentiate between the attacker and the attacked would disrupt and destroy Dharma, the social order that facilitates everyone's progress towards realizing their spirituality. When we see everyone's spiritual equality, we are meant to act in a way that helps everyone actualize their spiritual potential. Hence, Arjuna needs to stop the vicious, such as Duryodhana, and assist the virtuous, such as Yudhisthira. Okay, so in a nutshell, seeing everyone spiritual equality is meant to expand their vision beyond their material bias. It is not meant to make us materially blind. All right? I've gone off a bit on different purports to this verse from different acharyas. But any questions or comments here? specifically from the anything to bring out from the purple. Looking here.
I was also thinking that, yes, we're supposed to see everybody equal and to know that Krishna is within everyone. So you should act towards them in a nicer way. But also we've also seen, what is it? Like everybody's in a different state, different mode of material nature, different levels. So then you have to associate and also act accordingly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So I think I was reading somewhere else as well that, for instance, persons of different spiritual status. Okay,
Yes.
so then if you give the, if you don't give more respect to the spiritual master than you would the postman, then that will be an offense. Or another example, if you choose not to give the same respect as your father or your grandfather. Actually, it said you should be more respectful to the grandparents than the parents. Like that. So, according to etiquette, we should be conscious of the distinctions. At the same time, understanding that Krishna, the Paramatma, he is like rain that falls even on bodies of water. He appears in everyone's heart. It's not as if he's choosing not to appear and I'm not going to appear in his heart or her heart. No, he appears in every species, in everybody's heart. Yeah. So someone who sees that, with a real vision here, well, it was described, one who sees the underlying, what was described, spiritual substratum. Yeah. Let's let someone in. Yeah. And there was something in the chat here. Let me look at this from Katarina. What to do if, for example, minority devotees comes to us feeling discriminated against due to their background? I feel like using this verse in this instance would create more damage than good. I'm not exactly sure the context, but it reminds me of one time we had one of our spiritual masters who's since passed away, Dr. Tirtha Maharaj. And he was African American. And he saw and experienced racial discrimination, even within the circle of devotees against him. Now, probably it wasn't grossly intentional, but due to the devotees' conditioning. So, for instance, one devotee may come from a very racist background or family, then they mix him, you get the point. So he felt that he said there's racial discrimination within this movement, Prabhupada, or was there's effect. So Prabhupada said to him, well, if you think you are a black man, then you will be disturbed. Understand? Prabhupada was encouraging him to rise above it and not for him to not identify himself with being discriminated against. So that's something to meditate upon. Let me read this again. Prabhupada, what to do if, for example, minority devotee comes to us feeling discriminated against due to their background? I feel like using this verse in this instance will create more damage than good. Anyone can answer this?
I just recently read a little thing somebody sent me, what Prabhupada said, that there is a lot of issues going in our ISKCON, devotees fighting and things like that. Prabhupada said that they both at fault. One, if they're fighting, one, because one is not tolerant of the other person, and the other one wants to prove his point right. So we are all at fault in a way. And then I was also thinking about how a Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam Adhikari would work with this slok,
Yeah.
How they would
Sava
see.
Bhuteshu, yes. Bhutu Yapa said Bhagavan Bhavamatmana Bhutani Bhagatmani Isha Bhagavadotama. The most advanced devotee sees within everything the soul of all souls, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees everything in relationship to Krishna, and understands that everything is eternally situated within the Lord. So you could say this verse is speaking about quite a highly qualified devotee. Yeah. But still,
Prabhu, I was thinking.
You try to see. Yes, please.
I was thinking, Prabhu, sometimes all this discrimination, everything comes because you do never want to let go. You just want to go, 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 go. Your point is right. My point is wrong. My point is right. Your point is right. So if somewhere we have to let go, it's okay. Krishna is watching. We let go. And because if we go on thinking right and wrong, in this world there is nothing right, nothing wrong. Everything is...
we're going off on a specific thread here, but it's interesting point. It kind of helps at some point. If we get into sometimes life is easier if we're detached. If we have some detachment, it makes life a lot easier, even if we're in a situation where
in a difficult situation, you feel very lighter afterwards.
Yeah, even in some occasions, we may be in the right, but to try and bring that to others' attention just may be too disturbing for them. So you say, as you mentioned the word, let it go.
Yeah.
That's the great art of how to live in this world. But over and above everything, this is something we can practice. We should be happy to see souls and their body or whatever their karma is. We should aim to see with spiritual vision. We should appreciate them as a soul, as part and parcel of Krishna, and that the Lord is within their heart.
But again, it's not easy because although we know we are not the bodies, but our conditioning makes us to act body. So even this goes with so many devotees nowadays. Like even with the gender and everything, that's because we are just banging on. I sometimes think it is just my point has to be right, and our thing should be right. I think with that mood, and that is why all these discrimination and everything comes up. Okay, you see something, you just let go. I don't know. I felt that way. It is really helpful and feel lighter.
I think we can use two words here to describe what you're speaking about: false ego.
That's it.
I never.
If we can
exactly,
overcome that, if we can overcome false identification and everything which comes of it, we'll be doing good. And Katarina, let's see if I can understand this better. She says, I have a god sister who is African bodied, living in South Africa, and she has experienced a lot of racism as well. And she said the life for her there is very difficult on a daily basis. Surprised. South Africa is supposed to be the rainbow country.
Of course, it's a super place.
Krishna is watching. Where does it actually stop if a person isn't allowed to do service on the basis of let me read it. While Krishna is watching, where does it actually stop if a person isn't allowed to do service based on their skin? Now that is completely wrong. That is completely unacceptable. And I would find it hard to believe that that's done in any ISKCON temple because they're the wrong color. They can't do service. Although having said that, in India, ladies can't go on the altars, but that's a whole other subject.
Yeah, that's
based
another one.
on culture or
But
so-called.
not South Africa. South Africa, there are
Yeah.
so many. Even
So,
black bodies are doing very well.
and although she continues, and although we are not this body, what to do if our body is the reason we get discriminated against? Well, Tunada Pishana Chena, Tunoda Pishna, Maninam, Manidina, Kitana Sadahari. This is the nature of this world. What can we do? Sometimes we're going to be unfairly treated. So we
But that is also coming with our karma, Prabhu. Because if we have to burn our karma, and if you are only associating with devotees, so devotees are the only people going to burn that karma.
Yeah. So
because nobody else can help you to burn that karma.
yeah, so
they
this is a type of things we invoke when we've been disturbed by being mistreated for one reason or another. So we need to reflect. So sometimes when we're in a difficult situation and we may have sensed we've been unfairly treated or unfairly represented, okay, it's karma. But to come to that immediate understanding may take some time. So it means we have to reflect. We have to be quite thoughtful as devotees. I think I mentioned this last week as well. I think Mahatma's got this video where if the world spits at you, don't spit back. Yeah. So yes, undoubtedly it's karma, but for most, they may have to reflect a bit, and after some time, they may be able to accept it. Yeah, I don't know. It's quite a topic we've got into here. Yeah, discrimination.
If she is God's sister, so that means she's a disciple of Mahatma Prabhu only, because she's studied from Mahatma Prabhu.
So Mother Katarina, I don't know if we've answered your question here, what to do. Well, it shouldn't go on. It shouldn't be happening. You've mentioned it seems like someone's, from what you're saying, I take it at face value, someone's been denied service based on skin color. I mean, that is completely wrong and completely, in one sense, unacceptable. So if it can be corrected or brought to authorities' attention, that should be dealt with. Other than that, this world is what it is, and sometimes we're going to be dealt with in the wrong way. Yeah, it's the nature of this world. And often when we speak about this type of subject, when we speak about ourselves being on the receiving end, but also the way we interact, we may be the bringers, or it may be us who's forcing others to actually reflect. Oh, it's that karma that, so we shouldn't forget that. Often when we speak about this subject, we may be the ones, in particular, in some circumstances, the ones due to being in not so good consciousness, that we may be not, we get the idea.
I was thinking, I have gone through a lot, and I just wanted to just explain that, yes, we can sit down and say it's our karma, but also karma is there, but also Krishna has some things he's sorting out. There's a bigger picture that Krishna is sorting things out. And when you sit back and even look at what Krishna has done for you or does for you, you might just be putting on one point, but she's been given this. But just to go on the other side and say, look at how Krishna has brought you to Krishna conscious. Now it's up to you to give up thinking, they're not letting me do service. Just concentrate on your sadhana. Krishna cannot nobody can take away your chanting, reading, hearing, your sadhana. So concentrate on that and you'll see things would look differently.
Yeah. Words of experience, words of wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, let everybody jump up and down. If anybody wants to talk to you, doesn't want to talk to you, doesn't matter. This is where this slope can come in. You see everybody equally. You see Krishna in everybody. And then you just, okay, let go. Let go. Just consider. Nobody can take Krishna away from you. So it's up to you to move towards Krishna.
very good point. And just tying the two threads together, for instance, if someone treats you badly or treats you, from your perspective anyway, unfairly, then you may then discriminate against them. Bhagavad Chandravali is explaining here, no, we should see it as, Krishna's long-term plan in order to help us to become free. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments here? What can we bring out here? Just looking through here. Prabhupada brings up here, the bodies are material productions of material modes of nature, but the soul, the super soul within the body, yeah, Prabhupada mentions that, the same spiritual quality, but not in quantity. Yeah, we're clear on that. All right, okay, Hare Krishna. Let's read another verse, text 19. I had some more comments on this, but let me just look first. Well, no, I think we've covered it. We've covered the points nicely, actually, that are already there in the commentaries of the Acharyas. In that discussion we just said, we covered all the points which they brought up. Quite amazing. Hare Krishna. All right. Someone like to read text 19. We have, how many devotees we've got with us now? We've got 170 devotees. No, we've got 11. Hare Krishna. We've got our core group here.
I can read it.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. This one, 519.
Yes, correct.
Yaiva terjita sargo yasam yastitambana yudosam hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani tastita. Translation. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to this stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul, but as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to taking birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below.
Yes, thank you. So this is very much in line with what we're discussing just now. Equanimity of mind in the midst of the turbulent material world. Being sameness, the word is mentioned, sameness and equanimity. What's the Sanskrit for that? It's samye. Yeah. So we're going to have, so this is a place of dualities, as I'm sure we all have experienced. So someone who's Krishna conscious, someone who's elevated in consciousness, they're going to remain the same, established in sameness and equanimity. That means they're just describing here that they're beyond, mentioned that they've conquered the conditions of birth and death. And in the commentary here, this is Buddhijam. He mentions sameness and equanimity can be experienced on the platforms of Brahman, Paramatma, and Krishna consciousness. So the Brahmavadi sees everything as situated in Brahman. The Paramatmavadi sees the super soul at work, impartially sanctioning the karmic reactions of all living entities. The Paramatmavadi is undisturbed because he understands that everything is occurring by the Lord's will. Thus he remains calm even in the ocean of material turbulence. I just mentioned that. Yeah. A devotee, this is the point Chandravali was bringing up. Mama Chandravali is bringing this up. A devotee of Krishna recognizes everything that happens to him as Krishna's kindness. So read that again. A devotee of Krishna recognizes everything, right, that happens to him as Krishna's kindness. And everything, therefore, increases his devotion. And then he quotes a verse some of us are familiar with by Lord Brahma. Anyone can say what that verse is? Or paraphrase it, Lord Brahma. There's one verse we've mentioned a few times in our readings. It describes how a devotee sees everything as Krishna's mercy. Tatena kompom shikshamano. Heard that before?
Yes.
Yeah. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So we have to, as much as possible, avoid the temptation of blame or the temptation here of reacting to so-called reversals. It's easier said than done. Any comments on that? So patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body. So this is someone who's very fixed in God consciousness. They're not wavered in their faith by what happens. Yeah. I've got this book written by one Christian. He's not your average Christian. His presentation of Christianity is very much in line with Krishna consciousness in a lot of ways. But he wrote one book. That's why the title was "Where Was God in the Tsunami?" You know that great tsunami, which was a good few years ago now, killed hundreds of thousands of people. So the whole discussion is on that subject, from theistic point of view. So life is like a tsunami. Often it's like a tsunami. But if we can remain in sameness and equanimity, and we can't do it artificially, these are the symptoms that come from devotion to God. From devotion to Krishna, this is how a devotee interacts or doesn't interact here, as the case may be. This is just their consciousness is unaffected, because they have deep devotion and faith in Krishna, in a God. So even when they're faced with difficulties, their faith in God remains the same. Yeah. Now, persons with weak faith, then when they face difficulties, they may lose interest in worship of Krishna or God. Prabhupada gives an example from the Second World War in that regard. Can anyone cite that example Prabhupada gives about the Second World War?
Srila Prabhupada was in Calcutta and the bombs were falling. And Srila Prabhupada thought, well, this is Krishna's mercy falling down. He just looked at it as Krishna's mercy. That's Krishna coming.
Yeah. That wasn't what I was thinking of, but that's also very relevant. I heard it that Prabhupada was eating kachuris, and he thought, oh, this is Krishna, but not such a lovable Krishna coming in the form of bombs. Yeah, so Prabhupada was established in sameness and equanimity. Yes, Mother Padma is. But there's another example I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I can't really remember, Prabhu. You know that most of the Christians changed because of the. I can't really remember this full story. because the husband didn't come. I can't remember. Sorry.
All right. And
It's a very good
part.
example of the faith.
I didn't hear
And,
the first part. You said there's a story.
you know, story in a village. Oh my God, husbands didn't come back from the war.
Yeah, you
And
got
it's
it.
a
Yeah,
Christian. It's a Christian one, Prabhu. I can't really remember.
anyway, the example that Prabhupada gave is well, during the Second World War, perhaps it was the First World War, but let's take the Second World War. Then all the daughters, all the wives, etc., the aunts, they was all praying for their sons or fathers to come back. They went to all those praying to God. They always church. There was a full attendance in church during the draft. When all the men were being drafted, then all the ladies went to church. And I was praying.
That's the
When
one.
their husbands, sons, etc., uncles didn't come back, then they gave up their belief in God, and vice versa. Yeah. So so that means their faith, not actually very strong. So, yeah. And it is, and it's quite common. That's why, in the world in general, at least in some countries, there is quite a decline in God consciousness, because they don't have knowledge, and subsequently they don't have faith, Anyway, any other comments on this? Any other questions or comments here?
Yeah, it was like British women were saying, "Our husband, please come home, stay alive."
Yeah, on the other
And the
side.
German ladies, they were in the churches in Germany, and they were hoping that their husbands would come back alive home.
Yeah.
So who would Krishna listen to?
Yeah, that's the point. Who are Krishna to listen to? Who would Krishna listen to? And the point is, whatever the case may be, the Lord is in control. And at the end of the day, we have to kind of accept that. It is all the Lord's doing. If a person's say the husbands or whatever, where they come back or not come back, even if they don't come back, that is the unavoidable arrangement of destiny, which is empowered by Krishna. And no one can do anything about it. There's nothing that one can do. Everyone prays and hopes that their sick relatives are going to live, isn't it? But do they all live? No, they don't. So at that point, we have to understand everything is in the hands of the Lord. We can pray; it's good to, and we should do, but we should always be open for the possibility that Krishna's plan is different from our prayer. We should always ready for that. And I myself, that when I'm asked to pray or we go to see a devotee who's sick or a relative, and we should all understand that despite my prayers and everyone's strong desire, that it may not be the Lord's plan that this soul remains within that particular body.
I think, Prabhu, that's one reason Srila Prabhupada always said, whenever the prayer says, if you so desire, if you so desire.
I was that as well as I was saying that. Yeah. So this means that when Prabhupada was very sick, they asked Prabhupada if they could pray for Krishna. But Prabhupada, he edited the prayer, meaning, if you so desire, my Lord, please allow Prabhupada to live forever. Not exactly forever, but that's what they would like. But Krishna has other plans. Yeah. So this is the nature of this world. Yeah. It's all under control of Krishna. And that control we may not be able to understand or appreciate, but we have to accept what can be done. Yeah. What can be done? Everything is in the Lord's hands. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or comments here?
So it is always better when we are praying, we add that. Even we don't like to add it, but still if we add it, at least.
Well, yeah, we can add that, but we should know that, okay,
Yeah.
the person here, my father or my friend here has some disease, and I'm praying, but it's up to Krishna at the end of the day. It really, Krishna.
Because at the end of the day, Lord does the best for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to give you two examples in our Shastras.
Yeah, please.
Draupadi and Prahlad Maharaj. The Lord, I mean, you know, when she was disrobed, she prayed and prayed and prayed. And then Krishna came at the last moment when she surrendered to him with two arms up. Same with Prahlad Maharaj, went through so many incidents.
Yeah.
And then in the end, Krishna comes out from the pillar when his father is going to kill him or something like that. So we're like faith. We have to have firm faith that Krishna will protect me. But you genuinely have to have it from within.
Yeah. But so Krishna may choose also not to protect the physical body of a devotee.
Yeah.
For his own purposes. But Prahlad, he actually protected him, his physical body. And Krishna may do that. Krishna does do that for sure. But sometimes there's stories of devotees who have been stories of devotees who've been murdered, been killed. Krishna didn't save their physical body then. So, but Prahlad is saved. But with the overarching understanding that, okay, as it was meant to be,
Yeah, the Bangladeshi devotee was killed by the Muslim. Everybody was shaken.
Yeah, for example, just like a year ago, wasn't it? Yeah. He was killed and thrown into a kund, thrown into water.
Yeah.
So, again, we have to, the Lord, it's not good, it's wrong, and we should arrange things that devotees are protected. But there's a verse I heard today as well, my Guru Maharaj quoted it. Valashane has salanam pito nishingha. Remember the first line. That even though one may have very loving parents, still it's seen that sometimes the young children die. Yeah. Even though someone is very sick, and it may be very sick, and it may be that the doctor cannot save them. Yeah. What's another example? Even though one is in the ocean, it doesn't mean they may not drown if there's a boat. There may be a boat. You get the idea. I forget the exact translation, but words to those effects. It says those who are. It's basically the verse is one cannot do anything for one's own betterment without the Lord's sanction. Even if the parents are very, very loving and devoted, it's seen that young children may pass away. Yeah, or by the Lord's grace, they may survive. Yeah, so just read the verse again. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, thus they are already situated in Brahman. Yeah. And these verses go on to describe the symptoms of a God-conscious person. Any other comments or questions here? Well, let's have a look at the length of the purport for.
I was thinking of that devotee, very young devotee, Indradumna Maharaj's disciple, who left the body in Vrindavan, I think 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, lady, isn't it?
Yeah, very young, Nathaji. And so I really, the way she did everything, she left Australia. Actually, she did everything as if she has to go now. She was totally ready, very surrendered. So I was thinking maybe so everybody was wondering, and then we were thinking. Then at last I was thinking, oh, maybe if she gets married, she may not find. Sometimes if she gets married to a non-devotee, her life will be different. So Krishna grabbed that opportunity when she is really repentant. You know, she is totally surrendered. She left her job, everything. She came to Vrindavan, and the way she left also, it is very in a unique way.
Yeah. Okay. Just one question. So, did she know she would be, and did she have a terminal disease? And so
No, she went with an accident, Prabhu.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the story more because
Yeah, she
unfortunately,
just came and it was a very quick accident. She's gone.
yeah, so it's an interesting story because she actually closed down her material options and
Yeah.
went to Vrindavan. She stopped the job and all connections with anything she had with the outside world, but she didn't have notice of death, and she died in an accident in Vrindavan.
Vrindavan.
So so the very fact that she was closing down her operations was obviously the super soul had inspired her to prepare for it, because it was on the cards. It was going to
I
happen.
think even Indra Maharaja's offering, oh my God, it was, we read those days. I think everybody, most of the devotees would have read it. It was, I think she has a brother or somebody in Coventry, maybe.
Sister. I used to go on Marikram with her.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
She was the team leaders of the coaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
So
young.
I felt that's a time that, okay, because Lord does the best anyway. So Lord just grabbed that opportunity of her. That's how I thought that way.
Yeah, there's there is many examples that we can give even in our contemporary times, where it's obvious that there is someone overarching, someone overseeing everything and is in control. Yeah. So we should have faith in that. So that's why that means we establish in sameness and equanimity. Yeah. Right, now we've got a few minutes left. We've got 3 minutes left. So perhaps we'll just stop here. We seem to be getting through 2 verses each session somehow. I'm not planning it like it, but it's just how it's going at the moment. So we won't go to the next verse. We'll just, where do we get to? Yeah, so next verse tomorrow. It's not so far away. We'll look at 5:20. Yeah, so can I just, in a couple of minutes left, can someone just reflect back what lessons they're gonna, or any lessons they're gonna take away from today's discussion in little sound bites? What is it? Oh, that was interesting. I heard that. Anyone out there?
Me, I want to learn to, like the word says, to see everybody equally. I want to try and work so I can see Krishna in everyone.
Yeah, so you're going to try inspire, try and see Krishna's presence within everyone.
Doesn't matter what they do to you, but you act that way, you think in that way, you try and feel that way. Even negative thought might come, you just try and get rid of them.
Yeah. Whether they give you a rose or they give you a hit on the head.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You see them equally. You see Krishna within them.
Yeah. All right. Someone else. Look out, I might call on names. Nitai Mata, you've been speaking quite a bit here today.
I was thinking, I remember as Mother Chandravali said, Krishna has a better plan. You may see a very small plan, very limited, but Krishna has a bigger plan for you. In your
Yeah.
limited plan, you may not get even what you want,
Yeah.
but Krishna wants to give you more. So for
Yeah.
that, Krishna is taking you a little longer.
So have faith in Krishna's far-reaching plans, which we may not be able to see from our present perspective, but we should have faith that Krishna is in control. Yeah. Yes. Right. One more. Let's have someone else who's been listening in. What?
Books, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, please, Mother Katarina. I think I can hear your voice just about.
I posted in the chat box because I'm at work, so I can't talk.
Okay, let's go in the chat. Yeah, my Guru Maharaj, His Grace Mahatma Prabhu, has a slogan on his T-shirt: "Love those who even love those you hate, even no." You think you wrote this? Yeah, love those you hate, even though you hate to love them. All right, that's good. So let's go away with that. I'll read it again. Love those you hate, even though you hate to love them. All right. Good meditation. Let's try and do that. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. So please let's, carry on the discussion tomorrow. Yeah. Nice discussion. Yeah. The
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Prabhu
Hare
ki
Krishna,
jai.
Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.